So yeah, I was honestly getting tired of cranking out endless tier lists like every other week. It's either super cruisers, subs, carriers, or whatever wargaming decides to drop on us, and it kind of feels like I've been running a ranking factory at this point. But then I thought, you know what, let's actually do something different for once. And by different, I don't mean quitting this game like half the player base swears they're going to do every update. I mean talking about something fresh that just dropped, which is the brand new American destroyer tech tree line that starts at Tier 7 and goes all the way up to Tier 10. So instead of putting them on a list straight away and calling one utter trash and the other S-tier god, let's just sit down and look at them as a whole, see what they're actually bringing to the game, and whether they're fun, busted, or just another filler line to soak up your doubloons and steel. And honestly, whenever a new line comes out, there's always this split reaction. Some people start screaming that it's the second coming of Smulland, and the rest are like, nah, it's dead on arrival, don't even bother grinding it. So it's usually a mess of takes and salt, but that's kind of what makes it interesting. So in this video, we're not going to waste time pretending every single one is automatically amazing just because it's new. Instead, we'll break them down, talk about what makes this line unique, and maybe figure out if these American destroyers are worth your time, or if you're better off sticking with the classics like gearing, or just going to play literally anything else. And honestly, it feels like they just went shopping in the Italian aisle and said, yeah, we'll take that too. The 4 new ships are Hughes at Tier 7, Osborne at Tier 8, Christopher at Tier 9, and Burrows at Tier 10. And right away you can tell these guys aren't just gearing clones. Instead of sticking with the same old formula, these DDs come loaded with high explosive and semi-armor piercing shells. Yes, you heard that right. Semi-AP. The exact thing the Italians were supposed to feel special about, and now the Americans are just casually stealing their homework. But the real plot twist here isn't even the guns, it's the smoke. Normally you drop a smoke screen, you get a set duration per charge, and you've got to ration it like a college kid's last pack of ramen noodles. But this new line comes with a totally different mechanic. Instead of being stuck with X charges of Y duration, you get a total smoke timer for the entire match. Take the Tier 10 Burrows for example. You've got 3 minutes and 20 seconds of smoke, period. You can burn through it all at once, or spread it out in little tactical bursts whenever you feel like it. It's like a Netflix subscription, except instead of binge watching in one weekend, you're deciding whether to blow all your smoke in a single fight, or stretch it out over the whole game. And honestly, that's kind of fascinating. It completely changes how you think about positioning and survival. You can be greedy and spend it all in one monster trade, or play like a disciplined grandpa and use small bursts to keep yourself alive longer. Either way, it gives these ships a really unique identity compared to the classic American destroyer line. Instead of just gearing but slightly different, these actually feel like their own thing, with a proper gimmick that forces you to adapt. So let's talk about the real heavyweight showdown here. The brand new American Tier 10 destroyer Burrows, squaring up against the old reliable veteran of the line, the gearing. This is basically a classic new school versus old school matchup, and it's pretty wild when you start breaking down the numbers. On paper, both ships are destroyers meant to carry the same national identity, but in practice, they're almost 2 completely different playstyles wearing the same flag. Let's start with Burrows. Right away, you notice she's got 3 turrets with 2 barrels each. But instead of the traditional 127S, you're firing 137mm guns. That sounds like a small difference, but in destroyer terms, it's actually a big deal. You're firing slightly heavier shells with a bit more bite. And here's the kicker, you get semi-armor piercing shells. Burrows is actually about landing chunky damage hits on broadside destroyers and even on cruisers that think they're safe. Range-wise, she's rocking 13.1 kilometers, which is hilarious because most destroyers wish they could shoot that far without a radar cruiser immediately staring them down. Burrows can basically sit back and still slap targets at a range where gearing would need binoculars. Now let's talk survivability. Burrows isn't just about better guns. She's got 23.9 thousand hit points, which is a solid chunk higher than gearing's 19.4 thousand. In destroyer duels, that's massive. You've basically got an extra 2 or 3 salvos worth of health to play with, which is often the difference between you limping away or sending the other DD back to port. It makes Burrows feel a little tankier, which is ironic because she doesn't really get the same smoke gimmick gearing does. Instead, she gets something much nastier, that special American long-lasting smoke. This isn't your typical puff and pray cloud that lasts a minute or so. This thing is straight up busted, giving you 3 minutes and 20 seconds of smoke time across the entire match. You pop that in the right spot, and it's like renting out an apartment complex on the capture point. You can sit there farming, spotting with your teammates, or just denying the area while everyone else screams at their monitor. The downsides? Yeah, Burrows isn't perfect. She only carries 1 torpedo mount with 5 fish total, which immediately feels like a downgrade when you look over at Gearing, because Gearing, bless her old heart, still has that double set of launchers. 2 mounts with 5 torpedoes each for a grand total of 10. That means if you want to play the classic American torp ambusher, Gearing is still your goal. Burrows is more like, I'll throw some torps out when I can, but don't expect me to be flooding battleships every 5 minutes. It's a compromise. More gun power, less torpedo power. Mobility-wise, Burrows is also, let's just say she's not exactly Usain Bolt. She clocks in at a 33-knot top speed, which for a Tier 10 destroyer is very average, maybe even a bit sluggish compared to knife-fighting DDs like Kleber or Hallen. Her rudder shift is 5 seconds, which is fine, but not exactly dodging machine levels of responsive. You're not going to be juking shells like a maniac in this ship. You rely more on positioning, smoke, and those long guns to keep you safe. Gearing, by comparison, is a lot nimbler. She runs at 36 knots top speed and has a rudder shift of 3.3 seconds, which makes her feel lighter on the water. Gearing is just more comfortable when you need to wiggle around and not eat that last salvo from a battleship that decides to delete you. And then we've got the shell types. Burrows is all about sap like I mentioned before, and that gives her a unique niche. Gearing still has the old American combo and AP for punishing broadside light cruisers. That flexibility is nice because not every situation favors sap. For example, shooting angled battleships with Burrows feels like throwing tennis balls. Nothing happens. Gearing can at least light some fires and make the BV captain slowly rage quit. Finally, consumables. Burrows gets the special smoke and engine boost, but that's about it. Gearing, though, has some interesting options. She has the normal smoke, which isn't as insane as Burrows' version, but she also gets a choice between defensive AA fire or engine boost. So if you're in a carrier-heavy match and you don't want to get farmed to death by rocket planes, Gearing can actually defend herself a little better, while Burrows is kind of just hoping the CV ignores her. So how do these two stack up in the end? Well, Gearing is still the definition of a classic American destroyer. Flexible, comfortable, and a jack of all trades with a heavier torpedo armament. Burrows, on the other hand, feels like a specialist. She's more of a gunboat hybrid with a ridiculous smoke gimmick, higher health, and sap shells that punish destroyers hard but give up some torpedo power and mobility to get there. It's less about being the perfect all-rounder and more about dominating certain fights with overwhelming firepower and survivability. If you're the kind of player who loves dueling other destroyers and setting up shop in caps, while laughing behind a cloud of smoke, Burrows is absolutely your dream. But if you're still into that old reliable destroyer life, slinging torpedoes, kiting, setting fires, and generally being useful in every situation, then Gearing hasn't really gone anywhere. She might not be flashy anymore, but she's still solid, still reliable, and still a nightmare for anyone who underestimates her. So that's the end of the video. If you like the content, be sure to like and subscribe for more amazing World of Warships content. Sail safe, captains. Until then.